All right, we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us at Unreal Fest. Thanks for joining us at this early panel. It's a pretty good crowd at 9 a.m. in New Orleans, so good to see you all here. My name is Rob DeFilia. I'm the Senior Business Development Manager for Media and Entertainment at Epic. A little bit about myself. I've been in the animation industry for over 20 years. Started in 1998. I'm going to age myself here. Literally started in a basement with some college friends. We started our animation studio. This around the same time that Unreal was being released, and Maya 1.0. Back then, we saw like the potential in real-time technology. We were testing real-time shaders. Game engines looked really interesting, but we didn't think they were ready at the time. So fast forward a few years, moved to New Zealand, started October Animation, where we were making content for studios like DreamWorks and Nickelodeon. And then I jumped to the software side and joined the team at ShotGrid and Autodesk. And then in 2020 came to Unreal, where I feel like I came home. I've been tracking real-time technology over those 20 years, and it was really felt like it was a time that game engines were really starting to disrupt animation pipelines. So we've got a great panel today. With one of the most iconic brands being the LEGO Group, and three of their amazing production partners. We have WildBrain Studios, Pure Imagination, and Zebu Animation Studio. So, yeah. Round of applause. Let's take a moment and introduce my guests. So first up, Pamela Keller. She is the development executive and producer for the LEGO Group. Pam has over 15 years of industry experience, primarily focusing on children's programming. She oversees projects for studios including Disney, Hulu, Netflix, Universal Pictures, Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network. She's got a passion for innovative, impactful, and inclusive storytelling. And she's been the development exec and producer on several franchises at the LEGO Group, such as LEGO Ninjago, LEGO Dreams, LEGO Duplo, and LEGO Disney Princess. Thanks for joining us, Pam.
Well, thank you.
Next up, we have Shazzy Angulo. She's the Unreal Development Supervisor for WildBrain Studio. At WildBrain, she's been responsible for building the pipeline, workflows, and training for all real-time productions, now officially at 11 shows. Amazing. She was previously at Nickelodeon for 3 years as an engineering manager on the immersive technology team working with Unreal, motion capture, VR, and AR. She also has her own property she's developed to get girls into STEAM called Mitzi Makes It, which has a pink robot. Pink is a theme here, that she drives in real time when she talks to kids. And Mitzi is currently in development as well. It's a great piece of content. Take a look. Welcome, Shazzy. And next up is Virendra Patil, founder, creator, director at Zebu Animation Studios. For over 20 years, Viren has been a veteran of the Indian animation industry. He was co-founder of both Paprika's Animation Studio, now Technicolor India, and Eccentric Studios, and he grew these ventures to include over 1,000 artists on their team. It's a lot of mouths to feed. Yeah. Serving as studio head and creative director, Viren has been instrumental in revolutionizing the Indian animation landscape and attracting global giants like Technicolor, DreamWorks, EA, Rockstar, and MPC to Indian shores. And at Zebu Animation Studios, in addition to overseeing the global brands like LEGO, he's developed 3 original intellectual properties that merge Indian culture with global appeal. Welcome, Viren.
Thank you.
And last but not least, our good friend Josh Wexler, co-founder and CEO of Pure Imagination. Josh is a producer, a visionary, and an entrepreneur. Over the last 30 years, he has pioneered transmedia production. Got that buzzword in there. There's going to be more on that. And has created and produced content across nearly every media platform with some of the biggest brands in the world, including the LEGO Group, Star Wars, Spider-Man, The Avengers, Star Trek, Aliens, Batman, Shrek, NASCAR, Mortal Kombat, the Justice League, and more. He founded Pure Imagination in 2012 in Los Angeles, and I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about Pure Imagination a little bit. So welcome, Josh. All right, let's set the table a little bit. So since it was founded in 1932, the LEGO Group has grown from a simple, humble brick with massive possibilities to the world's #1 entertainment brand, and according to some independent surveys, the world's most loved brand. It's an enduring brand DNA that celebrated its 90th anniversary just last year. That's amazing. And so many exciting plans and moments on the horizon. And throughout those 90-plus years, the LEGO Group has been inspiring kids of all ages to build and create through the power of play, keeping its singular mission to inspire and develop builders of tomorrow at the heart of everything it does. But I do want to dive into a little bit more about play, and it really feels like someone from marketing got into my presentation deck. So, Pam, I want to start with you. Can you share a little bit more about the philosophy towards play at LEGO?
Well, yes, I can. So nice to be here, and thank you so much for all the wonderful things that you said, Rob. And I'm excited to be here with my friends. I've been working at the LEGO Group. This is going on my 4th year. And one of the exciting things about LEGO Group, which is a little different from some of the other brands that I've worked with, is that we have a philosophy, which is that children are our role models. And so everything we do is built around that. And there's been studies done about how children learn best through play. So everything at the LEGO Group is doing that to support that. So children learn soft skills from building with LEGO bricks, or doing like soft skills such as cooperation, resilience, team building, all that good stuff. So we're really excited to be here, and we're incredibly proud of the work that we do at the LEGO Group.
I love it. Well, we're excited to have you. And over the last couple of years, Epic and LEGO have had a really close relationship and partnership. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, we are really thrilled that we have been able to partner with Epic and utilize the Unreal Engine for our productions. And the 2 productions we're going to focus on today are LEGO Ninjago and LEGO Dreams. So
I love it. So let's take a closer look. So first is LEGO Ninjago. This has been a fan favorite for years. Their new season, Dragons Rising, was recently released, and Shazzy, the team at WildBrain, were producers on that. We're going to take a look at a little demo.
The merge quakes are getting worse.
We have to find 3 dragon cores if we want to stop the merge quakes and stabilize the world.
We must beat the ninja to those cores.
Still saving the world, huh? You were expecting fun?
I always expect fun.
This is your home! Fight for it! I promise this is gonna be good!
This is gonna be bad.
woo!
Awesome. So second is LEGO Dreams. This has been a brand new homegrown IP for the LEGO Group. Its first series launched in the spring, and it was produced by Pure Imagination and Zebu. Let's take a look.
Dude, we're secret agents for the Night Bureau. We literally go into the dream world and fight a guy called the Nightmare King.
All your schoolmates may be captured by the Nightmare King.
We gotta help all those kids.
What would you like to do?
I'd like to cross into the waking world!
Something's not right.
All right. So I want to go to the studio side. Josh and Viren, you're sister companies, but you're in different stages of your Unreal journey. Josh, tell us a little bit about more Pure Imagination and how Unreal Engine and game technology is really impacting everything that you guys do.
Sure. So thank you, Rob, for having us here, and it's great to be here with everybody, and thank you guys all for coming so early. When we set out to build Pure Imagination, real-time was really at the core of our strategy, and we just thought that everything that we were doing, from filmmaking to television to theme park rides and VR, was all going to be ultimately based on using real-time tools. So we've had it in our production pipeline in some form since we literally started the company. So it really drives everything that we do.
That's awesome. And Viren, so your team history of long-form animation. Dreams was the first series produced in real time, and on top of it, Lego had a little twist for you.
Yes.
Mid-production, they asked you to shift your pipelines, keep the same deadlines. Tell us about that conversation and how that impacts your team and the business and decisions to move forward.
Rob, it was, again, it was challenging, right? But honestly, the simple answer is if we didn't have the support of everyone involved, right? Whether it's the engineers from the Epic group, my team here, right, from Zebu, right, and Josh and the team, we wouldn't have been able to solve the problem, right? Including Lego, because they were considerate enough to understand what the challenges were, and then because the technical challenges are what they are, and one couldn't get past them. So, yeah, it was a collaborative effort, honestly.
Yeah, it was a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
You and your team did absolutely amazing. Shazzy, WildBrain, I like to say you're one of the real-time OGs out there. It's a new industry, but you have 11 shows under your belt. At WildBrain, during this process, you were still fine-tuning that real-time pipeline, and you'd done some previous series and seasons of Ninjago in your traditional CG pipeline. You know, what is that transition like, moving a show over, and how does that decision impact the business and making that change? And when you have already a legacy pipeline, you know how to do it in one way.
Yeah, so for us, we were kind of maybe, I think, around our 5th or 6th Unreal show when Lego made the request. And honestly, when a client or a partner asks to be an Unreal, it's almost a little bit easier for us than trying to convince someone to be an Unreal. So we were excited about that, like having, you know, the mentality for that relieves a lot of pressure and anxiety of like, okay, how do we manage that relationship now? And then in terms of pipeline, it was kind of looking at, we have tons of assets because we've done a lot of seasons of it. We have a core team that's been working together for a long time, and they have a good flow and a good rhythm. And now we're going to kind of say, hey, you need to forget about half of what you know, and we're going to reteach you everything on a new show. That's just a lot to kind of take on. And also at the same time, what was nice was Ninjago was getting kind of a little bit of a fresh look also, so we could kind of redo some of the assets. Again, a lot of the stuff, you know, it could come in, but it was going to be really heavy, so we had to redo some of the stuff. So it's all those considerations of kind of really educating the team of like, here's what's going to change, here's what can be the same, here's how you're going to make decisions moving forward, and then making sure if there's any new things like how we do reviews or what we're sending to Lego to look at, that was also communicated to them of like, hey, this is what the Unreal pipeline at our studio looks like.
On that, and Viren, I want to get your perspective as well. You had a team, they were already in their CG pipeline. How many of those people come over and transition to the Unreal pipeline? Is there a resistance? Are they excited about that? Do you take some people that you already had on your pipeline? Like, how was that process?
Rob, honestly, it's a mixed bag, right? There's certain groups, especially from the technical departments, that are absolutely thrilled and excited about this opportunity. As creative heads, I love it, right? Simply because the way we can iterate. I mean, one of the things that you were talking yesterday afternoon, the fact that you could be at an artist's desk and we could fix things as close to as real time as possible and just move forward with the decision making. Ultimately, we are investing in terms of trying to encourage all of us to think beyond the box and say, hey, this is what the show can, this is what this tech can, it gives us the freedom that we need to, we can exploit in a very positive form.
Great.
And for us, we will take 100% of the team. You know, we don't post specific, we're looking for Unreal modelers, Unreal lighters. You know, it'd be great if you have that experience, but it's just a reality that you're not going to find all these people. And if we have good people that have been in the studio, it's, you know, if they're excited about it, it's totally a no-brainer. Like, they'll pick it up pretty quickly, like they'll work through the challenges. And then there's some people who are a little bit resistant, but we spend a lot of time with training, making sure that they don't feel like they're alone, they can still hit their deadlines, that they can transition into it easily. But we're totally open. Like, if you're interested and you've been in another pipeline the whole time, like, we'll get you in there, and I usually say we're going to talk a lot in the beginning, and then one day we're not going to talk anymore, and it's going to be a good thing. Is like you kind of get over that hurdle.
Shazzy has several Unreal Engine support groups, so if you have any Viren, you talked about creative. I want to shift gears to creative, and Pam, I want to go to you. Lego's different than other studios because you have theme parks, you have toys, you have entertainment. Talk to us, share a little about the creative process and how it's different and at Lego, and then how that's prepped and delivered to your vendors.
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing children's programming for a really long time. And the creative process is a little bit different at Lego Entertainment. So for Dragons Rising, we wanted to have a reboot of the series because this has been going on for like 11 years. So some of our fans are now adults. And so with this new series, we wanted to service those old fans, but then bring in new ones. So we've introduced new characters while retaining some of our other characters. And when we're developing a series, we work in conjunction with Toy, and we put together like what worlds we can build and what characters we can build, and then we work with the animation studios. We consider them our animation partners more than just vendors. And with Dreams, it was a little bit different because it's our first homegrown IP that I've been a part of. That's new, and we've been doing studies on children's sleep. And now we've had La Pandemia, the pandemic, and so kids have been having a little bit more stress and anxiety, and what happens is that comes out in the form of nightmares. So one of the things that we've discovered with sleep is that some of that will bleed into their waking worlds, their waking life, that they've had the stress and anxiety. So we've created this awesome IP that explores those anxieties and how to deal with it and make it a positive situation for kids, because when they dream, that's part of their growth and development process. So I think that's really cool. And all the assets we create, we want to be able to use across our company. We have games that are kid-friendly. We have theme park experiences, including 4D movies. We have marketing materials. And then we also even use our assets that are created with the engine for our packaging materials for our product. So that's it in a nutshell.
La Pandemia.
La Pandemia.
So much more exotic.
I know, doesn't it?
It?
It's like, oh, the La Pandemia wasn't so bad.
So you're working. Is the review process also is Toy very involved in that? You're building assets. Your vendors are sending those to you. You've got minifigs, and then from a creative producer standpoint, your team's approving and looking at things. And then is that shared with Toy? And how much is? I mean, these aren't brick build stories. You have some that are much more one-to-one. This is a bit more style. How is that creative process, and what's Toy looking for from the creative on that?
Well, another aspect that's a little bit different is we don't have like a standard writer's room. We have summits. So with the summits, we have our product and marketing teams help present to our creatives. And it's not just writers in the room. We also have like the executives from the animation studio and the director and the producer, so that we can all see at once what we're working with, and then it's very collaborative. And also, like, you see the way the minifigs work when you play with them, or like this. With a property like Ninjago, it's very martial arts based. It's spinjitzu is the art. Anyway, so there's a little bit of squash and stretch. So we're able to have a little bit of movement because, they're spinning with their spinjitzu. Anyway.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about, it's interesting the differences between these two productions. And you talked about Ninjago. It's been over a decade. It's been out there. So there's history. You've got a style guide. You've got a following. So you have some things that you have to, hold on to, and we'll come to, like, is there a refresh at some point? And then on the other hand, you've got a new Lego show, extremely high expectations. It's a lot of pressure, I'm sure, on the producers, a lot of pressure on the vendors to make sure that you reach equality. In the middle of it, you're asked to switch your pipeline. That sounds like it could be a recipe for disaster. On one end, you've got Unreal Engine. On a creative side, is there a concern that you can reach the quality that Lego has asked? And then we'll start getting into some of the technical challenges.
Yes. No, I think there were a lot of things out of the gate that the technology was able to provide based on the brief, right? The visual brief that we had and the tech that we were asked to move to. Yes, I mean, that was a disaster. But I think whether it's Aritra, Jesu, or Rakshit, and a few others, right, who were the rock stars in making sure that the transition could actually happen, and with extraordinarily minimal damages, right? The technology really helped us, right? Yes, we faced issues with whether we need to go from Alembic to FBX to USD. There were many decisions to be made, thanks to you and Ron and others, Dean and others. We were able to find a solution that we thought worked, and we made a decision, and we were able to get past what was required. But off the bat, the technology was meeting the expectation of the clients. Anything you?
Well, so we actually had gone 5 years ago to Lego and said we want to do a show in Unreal, and kind of outlined all the benefits and showed actually a quality test from a previous show that we had done, and we did a test of that same show in Unreal to say we can hit the quality bars of what we really want to do. And they said, that's awesome, do it differently. And then said, do it this way later in production.
So, I mean, what are some of those that you maybe started to see later in this production, but you talked a lot about some of the things, some of the efficiencies that you felt by having an Unreal pipeline at the studio, and team sizes, like how has that affected, how was that pitching process to Lego? What areas were you showing the benefits?
For us, especially sort of early use of the engine, we knew that we would have savings across multiple areas, especially in lighting render comp, obviously, because you're seeing it and doing it all in real time. That also affects storage and how much hardware you need and all of these things. So we were estimating that we would have somewhere around an 8% savings versus a traditional animation pipeline, and that would equate to either financial or more runtime. So instead of producing 1,000 minutes for X dollars, we could produce 1,150 minutes for X dollars. Right. And that all proved to be true, and actually we ended up beating those estimates. I think we were closer to about 12% reduction in savings across the board, not accounting for inflation and all that.
It's always inflation. Shazzy, so you've done multiple seasons of Ninjago. You do have this other pipeline. There are always things that are unique to a show. You don't necessarily always have one pipeline that fits them all. What is that process like, taking Ninjago from the traditional CG pipeline into Unreal? Are there things that you retained? Did you throw the baby out with the bathwater? What was kind of that process?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix. So moving to Unreal, there's a lot more considerations. Like, there's some stuff that we had to re-rig, we had to optimize, and we do final pixels out of engine. So there's a lot of stuff that you need to start thinking about at the asset stage, like what needs to glow. Like, the Ninjago characters have tons of stuff that are glowing, emissive, all that type of stuff. So we try to think about that and call that out in the asset stage, which was kind of a shift in thinking for all the directors and everyone. They can't wait till the very end to call for it. And it was a mix, like what we used the engine for, like Pam was saying, kind of having this new look approach to Ninjago. Early on, we were able to do a lot of like quick dev tests to see, okay, what could we get from the engine? Was there some like post-process effects that we could add to help enhance it? So we do a lot of tests early on to kind of nail down what that look was. And then it was a mix of the assets. Like I would say maybe like 60% were new assets, and then a lot were from previous seasons. A lot of the big cities, like you'll see stuff that was definitely reused. But again, it had to be optimized for engine because everything is in there all together. So we couldn't keep kind of some of the workflows we did previously and had to bring that from there.
In other words, we zhuzhed the look for Lego Ninjago's
Well, that's it. You talk about the look, and Pam, you talked about this is, you know, some of your old fans have grown up. This is an opportunity to judge the look. You know, tell us that process because, you know, is that Lego working? Is that working with Shazzy and the team saying like, let's talk through creative, how can we change and improve this, and like what are those kind of changes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of what like Shazzy was just talking about. We work very collaboratively together, so we do different look development, animation tests, and then we all get on the same page and make sure that it's the direction that we want to go in, so that, you know, fans will recognize our show, but it'll also bring in new. Like this is the first time we've had a Netflix original with Lego Entertainment, and this was our show, so that was another reason that we wanted to like step up the look even more.
Love it. And on Dreams, there were some creative challenges. You've got a character that's translucent in those areas that you guys are working through. Does that impact the creative, or is it we have to look, we just got to figure out how to make this technology do that?
The choice that we made on the project was Lumens-based workflow, and there were certain compromises we had to make, but it really did not impact the story or the visual goal of the show, right? If we had gone path tracer process, probably we could have improved on the wow factor, but beyond it, I think, especially on the Z-Blob character, right? That's what we're talking about, and I think we were able to, even with the Lumens workflow, we were able to get translucency and refractions and refracted caustics, all of them working to a great extent close to real time.
Yeah, it was good working with your team. There is a lot of back and forth between studios and Epic and the Unreal Engine team working on features and hot fixes and things. So we're getting production tested as well. It's a helpful process, it's back and forth. So it's not just from that technical and artist perspective. The production itself changes, and the producers and timelines and you know where stages of production happen. Pam, these were your first real-time productions. You know, was there a point where your vendors had to help kind of educate you on what you're going to be seeing, when you're going to be seeing things?
Yes, well, we retained the same producer that we had with our classic seasons of Ninjago's, with WildBrain. So that same producer would work with us. And we also, like I said, Netflix was a partner because we were a Netflix original. So we also wanted to make sure we were very clear with our milestone schedule. And so like some of the lighting paths would come up a little sooner. We combined some milestones like the animation and the FX paths, and we just had to make sure everybody knew what to expect, when to give notes, the flexibility that they would have. So yes, so WildBrain worked with us so that we could also make sure all of our stakeholders knew what was going on there.
And Josh and Bryn, you guys were going through this in the first time, so you're educating Lego, but you're also learning that process where, Shazzy, your team has had, you know, you kind of gone through the paces, you know this. How was that for your production team?
I think it really was not very complicated because, like Pam said, it honestly was a very collaborative effort, and we explained to them that you could be seeing lighting with the work in progress animation, and that note would be there on shot grade, and so everyone is privy and aware of what stage one needs to participate in.
Shazzy, I want to talk about that creative iteration process, and I'm going to play a clip of your artists in shot making. Like, how is this speed of being able to change? How's that changed what you do? How's it empowered your artists and your creative side?
I think definitely, I mean, working with the directors and the art directors, and there's, you know, sometimes you get notes and it goes all the way from a coordinator finally down to the artist, and maybe the coordinator missed the note and they're trying to interpret and guess what the change was. And now we can just kind of, in a meeting, you know, the directors now at this stage are like, can we just open Unreal and just look at it really quick? Because they know they can give the exact note and they can actually like see the feedback. So that helps notes so much quicker. And then for the lighting and effects teams, like they're just working in there and they get instant feedback because it's, you know, 95% of what you're seeing, you know, minus some noise and aliasing is what you're going to get. So if you're seeing it wrong in Engine, it's not going to magically render better. So it's also kind of, I think it's a lot more fun working in Engine and being able to see all this. It's almost like you're playing with little digital versions of them and moving them around. So it's like our own little digital Lego world. I think it just makes it so much faster, but it's also like, that was a lot of the education process with the producers, because a lot of the times they'd be like, oh, this is going to take up the meeting. We have so many assets we have to get through. But it's like when you look at putting the note in ShotGrid or whatever software you're using, by the time it gets to the artist, they do the fix, they do the render, it comes back and you're looking at the next meeting, you see that add up so much, like a lot more. So it's definitely like that quick feedback definitely helps.
Do your review sessions change? Is there more over the shoulder with the artist? Do you bring that session into a daily session? How has that process shifted for you?
So it's a little still more kind of impromptu, but now all the supervisors are prepared to open the engine. Whereas before, like you would go in and you look at the dailies, and then they'd be like, "Can we open Unreal?" And you know, by the time it opened, you're like, by the time the scene opened, it's the end of the meeting. So now everyone has it kind of.
We're working on it.
Yeah, they kind of have an instinct that it's going to be asked for. So everyone kind of goes in with some of the shots open, or even some of the artists and supervisors will just be like, "Hey, really quick, can we take a look at this? I have some questions." Like that's just a lot faster too. So we don't have like dedicated like, hey, this session. I mean, they'll do one-offs with the directors or whoever wants to look at it. But a lot of like the art directors now are actually asking to be an engine. A lot of the designers are asking, hey, can we have Unreal so we can go look at this? So it's starting to like, you see the confidence building through the seasons, and you see more people who aren't necessarily needing to be an engine asking if they can be an engine, because they can see like, oh, I can fly around this whole set and see if something sparks my interest over here, or we can move it over there. So it's really cool to see that growing.
If I may, the technology is actually influencing the studio's culture and behavior, right? We are morphing into a different kind of entities at this point, right? The directors, the creators, the creatives can participate. The leadership creative can participate at the grassroots level and make a substantial difference real time. And that is astounding, right? And that impact is astounding.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, Shaz, you talk about that confidence, and I'm sure your team as well. You're going through this, it's unknown, and you start getting confident.
Yeah. So our workflows have changed, like as you were saying. There's the supervisors. We are all on the floor, walking from the desk rather than artists coming to us. We are going to the artists and talking to them and saying, that looks brilliant, but could we do this? And it's like, it's done.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've taken baby steps. You're adding things and more challenges from show to show. Animation for Epic is a huge focus for us. We're really trying to push that in-engine animation workflow. We really believe that the more you can stay in engine, the more you can stay in context is going to make you more creative, work faster. So we have a lot of releases recently with keyframe animation in engine. We have a lot coming in 5.4. You know, are you excited about that? and what is your kind of process of taking a measured approach to trying some of these workflows? Shazzy, you can start.
So our process into Unreal is very slow in the sense that we don't adopt every new feature that comes out right away. And that's because when you look at the size of our teams, you have hundreds of artists, you have 20 episodes, it's at scale. So if we take something and we break production, it has a huge effect. So for us, for animating an engine, our next step is there's two paths of, at the beginning of a show, we'll maybe pick a sequence, couple shots, 2 characters, and say, hey, let's animate this in engine. Do kind of an assessment with those animators of hey, what tools did you feel like were missing? What was difficult? What did you not understand? Go away, work with our development team to kind of build those extra tools, talk to Epic, say, hey, is this planning to come out? How do we get around this? And then at the end, later episode, go through the process again and kind of just compare hey, did this get better? And then again, slowly scale it up. Maybe we do a couple sequences. Maybe we pick one character and we just do that one character all in engine for all of the episodes. So that's kind of the slow adoption of the technology. And then it's also preparing, okay, now how do we have all these animators who now have to get trained in Unreal, Perforce, and it's not as simple as I'm gonna open my shot and work. It's you need to explain to them what levels are, what's happening with the lighting, what the sequencer is. There's so much more of that education that they kind of need to get under their belt. So definitely figuring out what is that slow ramp up training process, and then really finding those animators who are keen on being an engine and getting them in first, because they'll kind of push through any of the struggles and then expand it out to the larger team.
Very similar. We feel a little more confident with the look and the feel of an asset. So the next biggest challenge that we are obviously embarked on is animation. We have started training people within the studio. We have reproduced and created a lot of these shots for Lego Dreams within Unreal, animated within Unreal. So we have about 20-odd animators that are capable of animating in Unreal. But of course, like Shazzy said, there are certain limitations with the tech, and hopefully the feature upgrades that are coming, that are just around the corner, we should be, because it's no brainer. We need to stay within the challenges of moving this gigantic amount of data between multiple DCCs is yeah.
I want to shift gears to Pam and Josh and talk about transmedia a little bit. It's a word that gets thrown around at Epic and Unreal. We feel it's one of the promises of using the engine is this idea that you can use one asset and it can be output in different media. On Lego Dreams, we saw that. Pam, you talk through some of these billboards and kind of overall what Lego's vision is of transmedia and some of your IPs.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities once we create these assets to repurpose them into all different exciting ways for kids to immerse themselves in a play experience. You can see that we had these really groovy billboards in 3 cities, and the part that's so exciting about it because of the engine is you don't need to have your phone to see it. What you see is really what the folks on the street saw. So we have we use our assets for all different marketing experiences. And also we did, with Pure Imagination this year, a 4D experience. So at our Legoland parks, we have theaters where you can experience a film. And if you haven't seen 4D, there's effects that are written into it, like wind and lightning and mist and odors, depending on which which theater it is, and seat ticklers for when the Grimspawn's running by you. And so it's very exciting. It's exciting to be able to build all these immersive experiences for kids.
Josh, this is your bread and butter. Talk about how you see with Lego, with other franchises, this idea of transmedia and the promise.
We love it. I mean, basically, creating sort of, we like to say, one asset to rule them all. And if we can take an asset and use it in our films, in our television, in our games, in our VR, AR experience, in app, in advertising, in toy, everything, we only have to make it once and can use it across all of those different media opportunities. That's the promise. That's the dream.
Yeah. And Shazzy, at WildBrain,
It's a dream.
It's a dream.
Is what it is.
Shazzy, you're starting to see some of that at WildBrain, sharing, I think you talked about different motion capture, different working with other studios and sharing their assets.
Yeah, I mean, we've had requests from LEGO to, send them specific assets for whatever little, secret projects they got going on.
Yes.
And it's great because we'll get on a call with them and we'll be like, oh, it's here, and it's explain how it's set up, and they're like, oh, this is great. We can just use this as it is. And then again, I think the engine provides a lot too. So like for TV, your assets might be a little heavier to have kind of like, higher quality. But if you needed to use them for games, you could generate LODs in Engine. You can merge actors in Engine. There's a lot of tools in Engine that help you kind of then trim it down for a mobile experience or maybe a mocap experience that needs to run, at a certain frame rate and things like that. So the engine itself has a lot of those tools. So you don't need to go back and try to figure out, okay, how are we going to make this lighter? How are we going to make this better? There's a lot that we just kind of leverage in there and say, hey, here's one version, and if you need, to run at a certain frame rate or whatever, you can stay in the engine, and here's that version of it too.
Love it. I want to thank you all for joining us. It was amazing. I hope you all enjoyed this. Please give a round of applause to our panelists.